So there's this webtoon out there that is really good despite it being a power fantasy series, and that is because it has really awesome characters, a cool world, and an interesting premise. The series in question is the Academy's Undercover Professor. This is a really awesome story for a lot of reasons, so sit back as I talk about this comic and tell you why I love it. So the first thing I want to get into is the really cool concepts and themes this story talks about. One of the biggest ones is friendship. We have seen the students from all different kinds of backgrounds slowly become closer to each other as the story has gone on. At the beginning, there was this separation between noble and commoner, but that separation has pretty much vanished after a while. They have all worked together through tough situations and have grown stronger together, and that has allowed them to grow closer together. Honestly, it is really cool to see the students interact now and see how it has changed from the beginning of the story to now. We have seen our lovely Professor Ledger Cherish start to grow closer to people as well, which is also cool to see considering he keeps his identity completely hidden. The friendship aspect of this story is fun because it allows for some really great character development as well. Corruption is something that we see run rampant in this world. The people with power are constantly abusing that power for their own gain. Not that everyone is bad, but we see it more oftentimes than not. Ledger is someone who fights that corruption. He isn't necessarily a good person himself, but he does have his standards that he fights for. He will not let corruption stand in this world. That's why he is fighting this organization that he accidentally got himself involved in from the inside. He is fighting for his ideals and for those he cares about. The corruption comes in many different forms and places like police, the politicians, and the nobles. All of these factions have some form of corruption. They use their money and influence to get what they want, but not for long. With how Ledger is training up his students, it won't be that way forever. This is a big part of the story and is something all of the characters fight to stop. Speaking of, there is this awesome push in this story to help train up the next generation to be stronger. We see it constantly from all the teachers. They all push their students to be better than they are. That includes Ledger, who is stupidly OP and is also only really pretending to be a teacher. He understands the importance of having good kids be strong so they can protect those they care about. This is one of my favorite themes in stories because it's true that we need to make sure the next generation is prepared for the world, and they do a great job of this here. It's not the best portrayal admittedly, but it just still does a phenomenal job of it. Strength is something that is important to have. We see time and again in this story why strength is important, and this isn't just physical strength, I'm also referring to mental strength and the strength of your character. You need to be able to fight for your beliefs. Strength is very important for that. Being able to have that fortitude to keep fighting or keep growing is in itself a type of strength that needs to be praised. Ledger is someone who is both physically strong and mentally strong. He is someone who is not easily shaken even when things go awry, which quite often does happen. And he is making sure to instill this into his students as well. He pushes them to improve and be better. He also pushes them to believe in themselves because that is a strength that is unmatched by any other. The underworld is something that we get to see a lot of in this story. It is pretty cool, honestly. Seeing how our group maneuvers through the underworld and how they handle business, they don't just mess around. Everything is done in a very deliberate way. It all starts with recon, then moving on from there to planning and executing. The group that Ledger put together is an extremely capable group that knows exactly what their role is and how they need to execute on their role, which is awesome. The underworld is always a cool place to see in any story, and that is no exception here. I love the world building in this comic. There is so much we get to learn about in each arc. Things are always expanding and our knowledge is always growing. The main setting of the story being a school works out perfectly for this because now the story doesn't have to talk down to us to teach us things about the world. We just learn right alongside the students and they all ask questions and then we get them answered. It is great. Honestly though, the world is super interesting from the power system to the history, everything about it is really cool. The world building is the second best part of this series, only behind the characters, which are really great. The character writing in this story is awesome. There are so many amazing characters, and I really mean that. Some are really interesting, some have great development so far, and others we are still only just now getting to start to see the beginning of their stories, but the diversity of the characters is honestly amazing. So let's start talking about the first character I want to talk about, Ledger Cherish, the main character. Firstly, I want to say that one of my favorite things about this is that despite him being the main character, we do not know what his true identity is at all. Ledger isn't his real name, as he is a master of disguise. Only one other character in the story has snuffed him out so far, and that is because she is a famous detective. I mean, I guess there's also the main antagonist guy, but we'll get to that later. But anyway, let's actually talk about Ledger. He is really cool. He has this intense aura about him. He is insanely strong and really smart. He knows how to use people to his advantage. He isn't necessarily a good or a bad guy. He is just doing what needs to be done to further his own goals, and right now that involves him being a decent person. This is what makes him such a cool character, because we are just following a guy. He's not a hero, he's not a villain, but he does have his own goal, and that is great. So speaking of that detective lady, her name is Casey Selmore, and she is extremely important to the story. She is one of Ledger's main rivals for a while. She is constantly chasing him and getting in the way of his plans. She is someone who wants to do what's right, but oftentimes doesn't really know how to go about that. That's why she gets used a lot of the time through the series so far. She is quite strong and has given many strong characters a run for their money. She is someone who currently is going on her own character arc after learning the truth about Ledger not being the villain that she thought he was. I'm hoping that when she comes back with the same level of sass that she has now, but I also hope that she is able to work together with Ledger without it being forced. The last character I want to specifically highlight is a character known as Zero Order. He is such an interesting character because we know practically nothing about him. He is the leader of this evil organization that Ledger accidentally got involved in. He is also one of the only people who knows that Ledger isn't who he says he is. He is super cool and has this really intimidating presence despite him not really looking all that stereotypically intimidating, but that's what's cool about him. I can't wait for when more finally starts to get revealed about him because it is going to be so cool. There are other characters who are also pretty cool, like Selena, who is another professor alongside Ledger who has two personalities that completely contrast each other. One is the sweetheart who would never hurt a fly, and the other is this insanely evil woman who is also a part of that same order that Ledger is. The students are pretty cool. There are a lot of them, so not all of them get focused on as much, but there are some that get specifically a lot of focus, and those are the ones that I really like. Honestly, there are so many great characters, I could go on forever talking about them all, but I'll spare you from that because I think you should read this series for yourself and discover these characters. The Academy's Undercover Professor is genuinely one of my favorite webtoons right now because it is surprisingly well written, but not only that, it is a really interesting story with a really fun world and cool characters. I definitely recommend giving it a shot because it is awesome. Okay, so that was the video. If you liked it, be sure to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. It helps out a ton, and if you do decide to join the community, then I guess I'll see you next week with another video. Bye!